How you all doing? My name is Sadie Johnson. I'm the author of Her Story, Breaking Through Darkness. And so I want to encourage any of you who have not already purchased my book to go to my website, www.authormercedesjohnson.com. When you go on that website, you'll find my book and you'll be able to purchase it there. And you also can purchase it on Amazon.com. And so I wanted to briefly talk to you all about a subject or a topic that came across my mind as I was reading my book. And the question that came to mind was, how is it or how was it that as a 9-year-old girl who grew up in Chicago, I grew up in the Robert Taylor Projects. The south side of Chicago is one of the roughest areas on the south side, drug infested, gang related, a lot of shootings, killings, a lot of violence, all that stuff. How did I make it out of that? And not only that, the main question that came to mind was, how did I deal with my reality that stood me in my face? My reality that I tried running from for so long, for years. And my reality was that at 9 years old, I felt like a parentless child. At the age of 4, my father went to prison and he was sentenced 9 years for attempted murder. 5 years later, my mother was stabbed and killed. And as I pondered on that question, how did I survive? How did I break through that darkness, that layer of darkness? How is it that I didn't lose my mind? How is it that I'm not, addicted to drugs? How is it that I didn't succeed in committing suicide? How is it that I'm still here? And as I began to think about that, the only thing that came to my mind was and still is God. It was God that literally kept my mind. It was God that didn't allow the razors that I was using to cut to not pierce my veins. It was God that when I would put things around my neck, that those objects did not, become so tight that took my breath. It was God. And so as I began to think about my reality, it was a reality that I never wanted to face. It was a reality that I never wanted to talk about. When people would ask me, hey, where's your mom? I'd be like, oh, she dead. Where's your dad? Oh, he in prison. I was angry with my parents. I felt as if they left me on purpose. As a child, I could not see that if it was up to my mother, if my mother knew that the day she left was going to be the last time she was going to see me, I know for a fact that she would have never left. I know that if my father knew that, that day when he left to go hang out with his friends, that was going to be the last time he see me for 9 years, and that he was going to spend 9 years behind, the prison bars, I know that he would have never left. But at the time, at 9 years old, and even, as I got older, I couldn't see it that way. I couldn't see the circumstance. I couldn't see my reality. Only thing that I saw was that y'all left me. And I was angry because I was a parentless child. And I know you all probably thinking like, yo, well, your dad wasn't dead. He wasn't dead, but he wasn't there. And there was a void. I was hurt. I was broken. I was lonely. I felt rejected. I felt unwanted. I felt unloved. I felt alone in this world. At 9 years old, I couldn't muster up my reality that I was a parentless child. I would have never thought that at 9 years old, I was going to be without a mother. That at 9 years old, my father was going to be in prison. That I was going to be here alone. I would have never mustered up and came up with the reality. And so since I could not understand that, I lived a life of anger, bitterness, rebellious, drinking, using drugs. I was the kid in school that came to school that was always high, always off of a pill, intoxicated, because I was trying to fill a void. I didn't want to face my reality because it hurt too much. It hurt too bad. And I felt that I was the reason why my mother was killed. I felt like I was the reason why my father went to prison. I felt like it was my fault that I was alone. And so I acted out my hurt and my pain, because I was hurt, because I was paining. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to express it, because the truth of the matter, I didn't know how to accept it. And so as I began to think about it, I said, how did I make it out? How did I make it out of that layer of my darkness? And the way I made it out, number one, it was God. But even when I gave my life to God, that wasn't the final thing. It was more to that. I had to actually face it. I had to actually admit. I had to actually acknowledge my anger, my hurt, my feelings of feeling alone, my feelings of feeling abandonment, rejected, unwanted, unloved. I had to acknowledge those things, and it hurted. Because I went years without talking about it. I went years with pretending. I went years of smoking. I smoked for about 10 to 11 years, trying to run from my reality because it hurted too bad. It hurted. And so that's how I broke through that layer of my darkness, with acknowledging, with talking about it, with writing, with finding people who I was able to go to and say, yo, I'm hurt. Going to God, yo, God, I'm hurt right now. I had to admit, and I had to let it go. I couldn't blame my mother no more. I couldn't blame my father no more. I couldn't blame them for my mess-ups. When I was in school messing up, I would say, well, if my mom was here, then I wouldn't mess up. Or if my dad was here, I wouldn't mess up. I couldn't blame them no more for my actions. I had to own up. I had to admit. I had to grieve. Yeah, I had to grieve. So I encourage any person who have lost a loved one, a mother, a father, whoever you have lost, I encourage you to admit that it hurt. Admit that you may feel alone or whatever, however you may feel. I don't know how you may feel. I just know how I felt, and it hurted like hell. But in order for me to break through that layer of darkness, I had to admit. So I encourage you to admit. I encourage you to let it go. Go through the grieving. Cry if you have to. Yell if you have to. Do whatever you have to do to let go, to be free, to be healed. Because I understand that pain. It don't feel good. It hurts like hell. Trust me. And it's a daily thing. It's a daily process for me. A daily process of continually breaking through different layers of darkness. Different layers. So I encourage you, take your steps to break through your darkness. Once again, my name is Mercedes Johnson. I am the author of her story, Breaking Through Darkness. If you want to know more about my story, I encourage you to get my book. You can get it from Amazon.com. You can also get it from my website. I encourage you to get it from my website, www.authormercedesjohnson.com. Let's together break through darkness, all right? God bless you. Have a blessed day. All right, peace.